Hey, what's up guys? Hope you're doing well. Let's see if I can get through this video here. I might end up needing to break this into several more, maybe give you round 2 and after Q1 and round 3 after Q2 and just keep the narrative going. But let me at least dive a little bit further into basically why is GameStop a significant holding, a significant conviction that I have as it relates to investment opportunities. Now, as I mentioned in my Tesla video, there's 2 things I'm thinking about. One is the ethical side, one is the financial side. Now, I don't know if I'll get through everything in this video, but at a high level, the ethical side as it relates to GameStop is about systemic corruption getting exposed and permanently changed. The financial side is about a phenomenal business turnaround with a very high floor, very low risk, with a lot of legs already towards the upside. Now, to understand the ethical side, really we need to zoom back and just talk about like what even is the corruption in the market right now. In 2008, you got to see a glimpse of some corporatism, some cronyism, some, you could even say, collusion amongst the higher ups of different financial institutions that were supposed to be separate but ended up working together in a way to maximize their own profits and undermine the common American. One example of this predominantly was with mortgage-backed securities. So you had lenders, so banks in the traditional banks in the lending industry that were giving mortgages to, people that should have never been approved for a mortgage, right? And why were they able to do that? Well, it wasn't the lender, like it wasn't the person making $50K a year that did that. It's higher ups at those banks that have relationships with higher ups at investment banks. Investment banks were just writing a blank check. Say, hey, you give us a mortgage, we will securitize it. So we'll take it off your books right away and we will package it in a mortgage-backed security. And so, hey, go ahead and write those loans. So now you have lenders, traditional banks, operating in a way that they wouldn't normally, in a way that is going to harm people. It's going to end up bankrupting people, right? People are going to get evicted from their homes. It's going to decrease property values in neighborhoods. It's going to hurt local economy. It's going to hurt local property taxes, right? All the things that we felt in 2008, 2009. I did not. I was 12 years old, so I was doing just fine. Or I guess 14 years old. Anyways, lenders doing things that they wouldn't normally do, shouldn't do, because financially they're getting paid to do it. They're getting paid by the investment banks. The investment banks, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to try to sell it, right? They don't want to own these mortgage-backed securities themselves. They want to sell the security. They want to sell the risk to who? To the general American public, to either you directly or to pension funds, to government funds, to mutual funds, people that have their money in 401ks and retirements, in pension plans. Let's sell these to them, but how are they going to do that, right? These mortgages are terrible. Oh, here's what we can do. Let's work with my buddy over here at the credit rating agency. Hey, credit rating agency, why don't you give all these the highest credit rating you possibly have? Like, describe this as the safest thing ever. That way, people want to buy it. Because these people that I'm wanting to sell it to, I'm wanting to sell it to people that are really risk averse, people that are really volatility averse. I want to sell it to pension funds, retirement plans. I want to sell it to people that are depending on this for their livelihood, right? So I need you to rate this as high as you can. So they did. Why? Because they were getting paid. The investment banks said, hey, we'll pay you. Great. And you'll benefit that way. So everyone makes money at the top, right? and at every level, it's hurting the everyday person. That happened in 2008, 2009. That was obviously, hopefully frustrates you. Hopefully, as you just process this again, you're like, man, that's a problem, right? And I'm still mad that that happened. And very little consequence to the people that schemed it all up, right? Very little repercussions. Maybe some fines, maybe some regulations, but most of the regulations have been reversed at this point. Nothing happened truly to change the nature of the corporatism and cronyism that gives way to collusive behavior at the expense of the everyday person to pad the pockets of the super wealth elite and the corporate elite in our nation. That's the corruption that we're trying to end, right? And if you watch The Big Short, you know that, oh, there's this famous guy, Michael Burry, who made a ton of money during the meltdown in 2008, 2009. And you might think about him in one way or another. He did not in any way cause the collapse, right? He just made money when the collapse happened because he bought credit default swaps that for some reason were being sold. Probably because of just egoism on the parts of the cronies that thought there's no way that this bubble will ever pop because we created this impenetrable system. Now that is just one example of one system that has been made with everyone in on it, everyone profiting on it at the top, little knowledge to the everyday person, until one day it pops and the everyday person gets hurt. I'm going to try to explain another one or two ways that I believe this is still happening, and really it is still happening, but it hasn't popped yet. This comes into play as it relates to GameStop, similar to the way that credit default swaps worked in 2008, 2009. That's because in 2008, 2009, you had the artificial inflation, the artificial support, the artificial high valuation of mortgage-backed securities. Michael Burry bet on the devaluation of those things. He made a lot of money. The scheme that we have now, a lot more prevalently, is the artificial deflation, the artificial depreciation of asset prices. And I'll explain how and how that hurts the everyday person significantly. And so the nice thing for us is, we can own a credit default swap, or we can own a share in GameStop without betting on the collapse of anything. All we do is own a company. We don't profit off anyone going down. We profit when a company goes up, just the same normal way that any normal person would make a profit. But the reason it feels significant is because, at least my conviction is that the system won't change until it has to change. This all feels so, hopefully this doesn't feel like so conspiracy theory, or, I'm not trying to over dramatize everything. But if we could go back to 2008, 2009, like if Michael Burry somehow was able to inform the greater American public of what's happening, and then somehow the greater American public all started buying credit default swaps, maybe that would have ended corruption in the corporate elites of America. If it was forced to, if the pain of the financial loss on their end was so great that even they said we cannot let this happen again, or the American government, who's normally in on the corporatism, if they said we cannot let this happen again, then maybe it wouldn't have been allowed to happen again. But what happened? Some laws were passed that then were, media, which is paid for, got to, describe as, oh, this could be good, could be bad, whatever. And ultimately, most regulations were removed. So obviously the pain that American people felt was not great enough for them to do anything in terms of revolt or frustration or whatever about the removing of certain regulations, but also the regulations themselves were not nearly as restrictive and demanding as they as they really could have been if the corporate elites and the American government did not want a situation like 0809 to happen again. This is already turning into a long video, so I'll do this video and then I'll talk more in another video to dive deeper into this. But hopefully you're tracking so far. My conviction or my suspicion is maybe if the financial pain was more, like if you take out the financial incentive, if take whatever Michael Burry made, if a million times that amount of money was being paid out by these financial institutions to everyday people that all owned credit default swaps, I think it would change the system, like for good. Like it would actually force a new system to be created that does not lend itself to this perpetual predatory behavior on the average person. And it's not just the average American person, it's everywhere in the globe that's affected. But let me go to the situation now. What happens now? So a lot of things happen, but one major problem that happens is what's called naked short selling or naked shorting. Let me describe it. And there's a lot of parties at play, similar to like I described with 08. There's a lot of potentially collusive behavior, but it's all centered around how can we bankrupt a company. And here's why everyone makes money if we can bankrupt a company. Investment banks, they bet on the company to go bankrupt, right? So they make money if the company goes bankrupt. Simple as that. Generally speaking, you make a lot more on a downside bet than you do on an upside bet because it's riskier to bet that something goes down. So they said, man, why would we artificially inflate mortgage-backed securities when we could artificially bankrupt XYZ company, right? So and investment banks don't all operate independently either, even though they should, but often there are ideas dinners, there's conferences, there's meetings where these people that are decision makers for different hedge funds and investment banks can get in the same room and say, I wonder what ideas do you have about what could happen this year? Oh, that's the company we're going to bankrupt? Okay, let's get it. This is all, it's all innocent until proven guilty, I guess you could say. So just because things have happened before doesn't mean that they're necessarily happening, let's just say allegedly a few times in this video just to protect myself from some random lawsuit, which I would be shocked to receive at this stage in my financial career. But going into these ideas dinners, investment banks, hey, we want this company to go down. Let's say there's a competitor. Let's just say for hypothetical purposes, Amazon. They want to make as much money as possible. They want to grow their market cap. So they need people to shift towards the online shopping trend. The more brick and mortar retailers that can go bankrupt for them, the better. So let's say, what category do they want to grow in this year? What have they picked out? Oh, toys? Okay. Let's try to bankrupt Toys R Us. That would be great if Toys R Us went bankrupt. But what can Amazon do? They can't really do anything. But Jeff Bezos, before he started Amazon, did work in Wall Street, so maybe there's some connection. Hey, investment banks, let's short Toys R Us. Okay, and then what can we do with the company itself? Oh, maybe Toys R Us, maybe we can plant some board members on the board of Toys R Us, or maybe we can have Toys R Us hire a CEO that's in on it, that is going to announce some big plans of something he's going to do to improve the company, right? But really, he's just going to spend a ton of money. He's going to pay himself a ton of money. He's going to pay his board a ton of money. He's going to try to wipe out the cash as soon as possible. He's going to increase the debt as fast as possible. He's going to expedite this process, right, of this company going under, compared to how a person would normally operate if they're about to go under, which is let's spend less, let's sell stores, let's reduce the footprint. We can make it out of this, versus let's just spend. Oh, bummer, we're bankrupt, right? So let's hire people on the board, let's hire a CEO, let's hire a leadership team that they get paid an astronomical wage because, wink, wink, you're supposed to bankrupt this company, right? Then they hire a consulting group, whatever. That it's all they're motivated to recommend things to the CEO, but they're all getting paid by each other. And who loses out? All the common people, like the 100,000 employees, for example, that lose their job. Whatever. Amazon gets their money, or Amazon gets their competitive advantage. The CEO gets their money. The consultants get their money. The board gets their money. And the investment bank, of course, gets their money for betting on the downfall. It's just a hypothetical scenario, right? Just an example of how all the high-ups, all the cronies could all profit off of something that would damage everyone else, particularly also all the shareholders. At that point, the only shareholders left would be common people that own these shares on a beneficiary basis, because all the investment banks all tapped each other on the shoulder and said, hey, get out of this, right? We're going to send it down. So the artificial bankrupting of a company, it's intrinsically bad, right? It's bad for a lot of reasons, but primarily the people that end up getting a financial loss are the people that own the shares. They're everyday people, right? The employees are everyday people. They're making not a ton of money. And also local economies, right? You have the real estate that now is less valuable, and property taxes that are now going down. And so it's going to hurt cities and towns. It's going to hurt everyday households. It's going to hurt everyday household investors. And not only are they taking a financial hit, but they're also missing out on the opportunity to potentially have a financial gain. And so it's almost like a double whammy. If the investment becomes zero, but maybe it could have gone to X, Y, or Z price, it's just that much more of a negative financial event for that person. Meanwhile, everyone that's in on the circle wins. Everyone wins. The consultants gets charged as much as they want. We're all winning. If you're a big high up in the corporate world, you're all losing if you're in the everyday Main Street world. So that's messed up. It's also anti-competitive. It doesn't lead to the best products, the best services, the best events, the best venues, the best businesses. Anytime that you try to just destroy your competition, that's not providing the best value of a company to your customers. It's not the best product or service you could create if you were just focused on, let me just do my best, let me run my race. If you operated that way, generally speaking, the world would benefit. We would have better options available to us as customers and as residents and as employees, etc. So, naked short selling is another big piece of, within the world of the investment banks and then this web of others. How does the corporatists, how do the cronies and corporatists make money? And it's by selling shares that don't exist. So if I could explain it, let me say a couple other things about it real quick, and then I'll try to explain it, and then we'll probably just wrap this video up there. But some other tangential things that are frustrating about this. One is that oversight in the financial industry is almost all independent. Well, what am I trying to say? It's almost all people that are on your team that are also your financial regulators. So whatever, the SEC is comprised of, former executives of all the major financial institutions. So there's already some bias there. The SEC is also, generally speaking, kind of a miserably run organization. I don't throw that word out that often, but there's some report that came out maybe 2 years ago or so that was I don't even know the specific details, but a wild percentage of employees at the SEC were spending a wild percentage of their time literally just viewing pornography on their office computers. Like, it's such a low standard of quality of work. It was depressing. Meanwhile, you'll have companies and complaints and crime that's getting just delayed. It's like years will go by without anyone being charged for anything, or no one's going to jail for anything. For example, all these white collar crimes just given a pass. And not only are often financial crimes not punished, but in the rare case that they are punished, often it's a fine. So let's say you did some sort of financial scheme, and let's say you made $1 billion, or let's just say you made $50 million for your company because this scheme you did. Often you'll have a fine for $950,000, and that's it. Nothing else. Here's your fine and a warning. And you'll have companies like Wells Fargo has just fines, just for years and years and years. So many, right? And when do we do something like put someone in prison? Or when do we do something like, I don't know, take away someone's license? Like, maybe you're not allowed to be a bank. Things that a normal regulator would do don't happen. Instead, it's just the fine, but the fine is not scaled to the profit they made. It's not scaled to the measure of the crime they did. It's actually, internally in the world of the cronies, it's just a line item. It's a cost of doing business. Literally, that $900,000 fine is a tax write-off for that company. So it's a small fraction of the profit they made. They don't have any risk of actual criminal prosecution, of actually going to jail, or of losing their business license, of losing their ability to continue perpetuating different financial crimes and schemes. And they even get a tax break. Say, way to go, you got caught, so you get to write this off on your income. Crazy, right? Just crazy to think about. So the regulation is bad. The collusionary activities are bad. And so now we get to what even is the thing naked short selling. The best way I could describe it, it's kind of like if an airplane was the company, or an airline, but we'll just use a singular airplane for now. Say they sell tickets for their airplane. And let's say the airplane has 100 seats, but let's say they sell 1,000 tickets. And normally you say, well, how are they going to be able to sell 1,000 tickets? Like, there's not going to be 1,000 people that even want to buy these $200 tickets, right? Otherwise, they would have way more airplanes going out. But no, here's why. We're going to make it $20. New York to LA, $20, one-way flight. That's how you sell 1,000 of them, right? And how would you be able to do that, or why would you be able to do that as an airline? Because if you actually do that flight, you're going to lose money. So you can't actually fly 1,000 people on an airplane with 100 people, with 100 seats. And so what are you going to do? You're going to bankrupt the company before the flight takes off. Non-refundable. So let's sell 1,000 $20 tickets, and then we'll just send an email the day before their flight and say, sorry, your flight's been canceled. You don't get your money back. Follow with me here, because there's multiple angles that I'm going to try to explain. But if you're an investor in a company and your company goes bankrupt, you don't get any of your money back. That's it, right? And you might think, wow, I've seen 1,000 companies, and I've never seen one that just has a $20 flight, New York to LA. This is a great value. So it will increase the amount of money that is inflowing into these shares. A ton of people would buy a $20 flight from New York to LA. The value is just too great to pass up, right? But it's all for loss if you're not actually going to get the thing you thought you paid for. It doesn't matter if the company goes bankrupt. The company does not have to provide the service. You don't have... So From a share perspective, they don't have to purchase the shares that they sold to you. They can just say that they would have if they had to, but they didn't end up having to because it just so happened that the company went bankrupt before they had the opportunity to purchase the share that they had already sold to you. This is probably getting hard to understand from a company perspective. Let me dive back into the airplane example. They bought all these tickets, and then the plane doesn't take off. You don't get your money back. So that's bad, right? 1,000 common people just got screwed out of $20. But here's what's also bad is that the value really was more than $20, right? What do I mean by that? Let's say they all showed up to the flight. Have you ever been at a flight that was overbooked? You'll have someone on the walkie-talkie telecom thing saying, hey, we've got an overbooked flight. We're offering $100. Anyone that's willing to stay the night, we'll cover your hotel. Anyone $100 to fly out tomorrow, let me know. Right? You understand what I'm talking about. This is what would happen. This is what should happen. If an airline sells 1,000 tickets for a flight that can only fit 100 people, then they will have to do that 900 times, right? That's how they can make it right. You sold me this ticket for $20. I'm gonna get on this plane. Like I have the receipts. They're right here. I'm not taking a different flight. I want this flight. I'm not buying a different company. I want this company. Now, can you imagine how high the price would go if in your terminal, at your gate, there were 1,000 people there? 1,000 people all saying that they're going on this flight that can only fit 100 people. How much do you think your ticket is actually worth? Right? Think about it. It is worth whatever the 900th person is willing to accept to rebook. I'm not sure if you're picturing it because there's a lot going on here. But it's a bidding war, right? For 900 people, and then the last 100 get to go on the flight. The last 100 people, the 100 people that did not want to sell their ticket for any price, they will be the ones that get to learn what the value of the ticket really was. And in this case, it's probably, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000? If you knew that 900 people have to get paid, why would you accept $100 in a food voucher? Let me just watch the first 100 or 200 or 500 people take that deal, and I'm just going to sit here and wait for the telecom to raise the price. And then, yeah, okay, I'll do it for $20,000. That sounds good. So that's a short squeeze scenario where all of a sudden a ticket that should have been worth $200, maybe you can get away with selling it for $20,000 because they have to fly this plane and they can only fit 100 people. So whatever this person charges me, that's what they're going to get paid. That's what normally happens in a normal short sale if the shorter ends up having to cover their short. The reason I'm describing this is because what normally happens is the flight's just canceled, right? Sorry, the company's bankrupt. Nothing you can do. But everyone missed out. What I'm trying to explain is people didn't just lose $20 if that happens. They really lost $25,000. Or if you want to just be super fair, they really lost $2,000 or $250. What is the actual value of that flight intrinsically? And that's what my ticket should be worth. And so if I paid for this, but I'm not getting to receive the benefit of the value, I'm not getting to receive the appreciation of it, then I am being wronged as the consumer. I should be able to sell this ticket for $250, but instead I can't do anything with it and it's worthless. But it's not because the ticket wasn't worth it, it's because a high up decided to scam me out of $20. It's the corporatism that's saying, hey, let's just sell all these things. People will buy them, but we'll never actually provide the service that they're buying. I could go into more about the dynamics of naked short selling. There are some documentaries about it. So a major part of the financial crime of it, I've just described. There's the frustrating collusionary nature of it. There's the frustrating regulation aspect of it. There's the frustrating financial damage to everyday people part of it. And the other last angle of it is, well, and there's the anti-competitive, the subpar business practice part of it that robs people of what should be a better product or better service. There's also the hawkish, there's like the predatory technology, like patents, IT, or like IP. Like a company like Google could find a company called Eagle Corp in Colorado and say, wow, they developed this technology, it's proprietary, they have it patented, but this is a mom and pop company. If we tap someone's shoulder to naked short them, there's no way that they would survive. And if they went bankrupt, I think I would definitely bid for their company on auction, when they have to sell out all their stuff in a liquidation sale. So let me pay them peanuts for their intellectual property, for their patents, and then let me develop Google Voice. Like, literally that happened. Well, okay, pause. We don't know for sure that Google knew that they were going to go bankrupt. We don't know for sure that Google, was a part of artificially accelerating the bankruptcy of this otherwise perfectly viable company with revolutionary technology. We just know that they happened to acquire in liquidation the intellectual property of this company that got bankrupted very quickly, after being lied to by people that worked for stock exchanges. And now, who knows what the value of that is, right? So the company loses out, the company employees lose out, but then the investors in Eagle Corp, or whatever the name of the company was, they all get nothing, because when they went bankrupt, the value of their share went down to zero, and they get no right to whatever Google uses that technology for. So it's super wrong. It's super, super wrong. I hope you can feel the level of wrongness that it is. You will feel it more if it gets exposed and it leads to a severe crash that's, longer than the Great Recession or the Great Depression and steeper than the Great Recession. If that happens in the general American economy or the globe, then you'll probably feel frustrated, right? But hopefully you can already feel a little bit of frustration or just an intuitive sense that this is a big problem and it's very wrong and that should never happen. It might even feel so wrong to you that you might not even think that is happening. You might think like Jeremy is some conspiracy theorist, and there's no way. I trust America, and I trust Wells Fargo, and I trust Google, and I trust Amazon, and I trust every consultant, and I trust every credit rating agency and every investment bank, and I can't believe that anything bad would ever happen. If that's your case, then I need to send you some documentaries, or some books. But even the SEC has acknowledged the problem of naked short selling. It's they've acknowledged it. Maybe just to pacify the public. I don't know, but I'm not making stuff up is all I'm really trying to say. That's probably about where I need to finish this video. A lot of things wrong about naked short selling, but also just a lot of things wrong about corporatism and cronyism within the major high-ups, specifically the overlap between government and financial institutions and mega cap corporations. If you wonder why Tesla gets so much bad press, it might be because Elon Musk is outspokenly, passionately opposed to hedge funds and short sellers, and he doesn't play to the game of pay off media, pay off investment banks, and guarantee that your stock does blank, and guarantee that your competitors fail, or whatever it is in the infomercial that these financial institutions send to companies for these anti-competitive practices. But push comes to shove, everyday person's getting hurt in a lot of ways. And so we, as an everyday person, are not just like grab our pitchforks and whatever. Like, we just want fair, right? We just want good in the world. We're not trying to be the saviors or the messiahs or anything like that. But if there's anything in our capacity that's reasonable, that's low effort, that's low risk, that could make a big difference, if that did exist, then we'd be interested in that, right? To create a better society, not just for us, but for future generations, right? A better outcome for all of humanity. That's what we want. And that's the opportunity that I do believe we have with GameStop. And I'll explain more in another video about why GameStop might present us that opportunity. And then also just why it's what I feel is a very low risk opportunity, a very fundamentally supported opportunity, not just only this stand against the government type of opportunity, but potentially the only practical way to possibly make a stand against this injustice, similar to in 2008 owning credit default swaps. Again, if 100 million more people bought into that, I bet we'd have a different world already. But that would have been way risky to buy into. Betting on the collapse of other valuations, that's a whole different world. We're just talking about owning a company that's only worth $4 billion, very small company, free cash flow positive, over $1 billion in cash and investable securities, and an owner that's worth multiple $1 billion himself, and an investor base that's really stronger than as a percentage of the company. It's a more directly owned security than ever in history. And Q4, when the Q4 earnings come out, it will, in all likelihood, just very, 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 very likely be profitable for the full year, the trailing 12 months. So successfully completed a turnaround, cost control into profitable company, then growing company. And if that happens to create a scenario where 1,000 people show up for a flight that's only supposed to have 100 people on it, then that's even better. That's the upside. That's the other world. That's how you get from I turned my $20 flight. Like, you can get your $20 flight to be valued at $200, like it should have been from the first place. That can happen easy. But to have your $20 flight cash in at $20,000, that's going to have to happen from an auction with a forced payout, which is certainly plausible. It is plausible. So there's an astronomical upside, really, but even the conservative upside is still pretty astronomical when you consider how cheap you're able to get this flight for. The only thing you have to worry about is, do we get to show up to the airport? And I'll share in my next video why, yes, we absolutely will get to show up to the airport. Or what I really mean is, no, this company will not go bankrupt. So that's very, very, very good news for us as investors. So hopefully that's enough for Q4. I'll share some more, of course, in the coming quarters, but hope you guys are doing well. I'm really excited for this year. If you have any questions on this video, if it didn't make sense, please let me know. Or if you want to know more, let me know. Again, this is not financial advice. This is for your information, for your benefit. I'm your financial advisor. But if you want financial advice, talk to me. Don't just look up videos of me. All right. I'll talk to y'all soon.